There's somebody in this room who's on the verge of giving up. There's somebody in this room who's thrown everything they have at it. There's somebody in this room who's tried everything. You've called in every favor. You've invested money even you don't have. The product is not working. The market is not turning out. The customers are not coming. The funders aren't answering the phone calls, and you're sitting here in a gathering and they've got some guy in a blue suit telling you to mind your words. I came here today to talk to that specific person, and I came to tell you this. The difference between those about whom history is written and those who write history is that those about whom history is written do it even when it was not possible. I myself don't come from a family of wealth. I don't come from privilege. When I started my first business, I went and rented an office. 3 months later, I couldn't afford to pay for the office, couldn't afford to pay for my car, couldn't afford to pay for my staff. I had the bank call me, say they want to repossess the car. It's a beautiful financial term, which means you thought you owned it, but actually we do. If I had given up then the past 20 years that God has graced me with would not have been possible. And I came to say to specifically that person who's on the verge of giving up, that as long as you have air in your lungs and a fire in your belly, as long as you have a God that guides you and something you are told you must deliver to the world, you have a responsibility, not just to yourself, but to this generation to make it happen. Because our success is a communal success. See, for the rest of the world, they have so many successes, they can pick and choose. For us, there are so few of us that when you succeed, we all succeed. And so I want to encourage in particular that young person in this room who's on the verge of giving up. Remember this word, don't. When you're at the edge and you want to give up, don't. When it feels like it's all failing and you should just stop, don't. When your friends who love you and your parents who care for you deeply are telling you it's not going to work, it will. So whatever you do when it comes to listening, don't. Excellence is not a concept foreign to us. Excellence is in our DNA. And so what's important for you and I is to remember this. Ningazilibali ukuba nizalwa ngobani. Because where we come from, what we represent is far, far stronger than anything we have done. Before I love and leave you, let me end by saying this. I am of the view that the history has not yet been written. The stories have not. Mind your words, because they will follow you. You see, power, influence, and capital moves in silence. Said differently, if you are loud, you don't get invited to the room. And so I want to encourage, especially the young people in this room, mind your words. The way my mother used to say it was, if you have nothing good to say, say nothing. Silence is an option.
Have you ever wondered what separates the best in class or the best in categories from the rest in class or the rest in category? Why is there only one Michael Jordan in a lifetime? Have you ever wondered that? Why is there only one Jack Nicklaus or one Tiger Woods or one Steve Jobs or one Elon Musk in like a whole lifetime? Have you ever wondered why is there only one Sam Walton? Can anyone, the fact is, regardless of what the arena is, it doesn't matter if it's sports, it doesn't matter if it's business, it doesn't matter if it's medicine, it doesn't matter if it's science, it doesn't matter if it's education, it doesn't matter. In any arena, there are only a handful of stars and even fewer superstars, and there are even fewer people that we could call legendary. How many of y'all would agree with that, right? But you're about to discover what it takes if you want to be a star,
if you want to be a force for good,
or if you want to be legendary,
then choosing sides is not an advised strategy. I said, explain this to me. He said, in the US, there are two major parties, right? So whichever side I choose, I alienate 50% of my community. Which is to say, how do I transform and change people's lives when I have already alienated them? There is a fundamental difference between the things you say and believe in private and the things you represent when you wear the hat of a CEO of a company. There are things I believe that I would not dare say because I recognize that my mouth is currency. That the things I say influence my laborers and the people in our team's lives. They influence the portfolio companies where God has graced us to have interests. They influence all of the territories where we do business. They influence those things. And so when I recognize that my mouth is currency, I'm cognizant that my thoughts can shape direction. So the trick is this: stand on principle, but remain neutral. Standing on principle means recognizing what you stand for and acting for what you stand for. Remaining neutral means not trying to convert other people, because that's not your job. Your job is to create value, to build a balance sheet, to innovate, and to transform lives. And to do these things, you need to reach to everybody, even those across the divide.
Find the beliefs of somebody who's succeeding in the arena that you want to succeed in. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to realize you weren't born believing anything. Here's a mistake people make about beliefs. Most people think they believe things because those things are true. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Most people think they believe things because they believe those things are true. So they think it because they believe it's true. But they think they believe it because they think it's true, but they think it's true because they believe it. You can't start with belief. You have to start with truth. A good friend of mine, I got this phrase from him. I don't know where he got it. He couldn't remember where he got it from, but I'm going to give him credit for it. Joe Marfolio. Joe said to me one time, we were just having a regular conversation, and he said, "Myron, I would rather have questions I can't answer than answers I can't question." What we have to do is we have to reprogram our subconscious mind, because if God be true and every man a liar, then I can always be becoming more than I've been being. Always. Because there is no arrival. There's no there. There's no there. There is a here though. But there's no there. What does that mean? There's no there. The Apostle Paul said, who by the way wrote 14 books of the 27 books of the New Testament, that's more than half. He said, "I count not myself to have apprehended." Well, if anybody has apprehended, it might be the guy who wrote 14 of more than half of the New Testament. "I count not myself to have apprehended." What does that mean? I have not arrived, but I press toward the mark of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Oh, so you're pressing toward the mark, even though from the perspectives of the people who are looking at you, you've already surpassed the mark. And that's why it doesn't matter how long the other person's yardstick is. I must not ever measure myself with another man's yardstick. Because some people's yardsticks are going to make me feel smaller than I am, and some of the people's yardsticks are going to make me feel bigger than I am. And either way, at the end of the day, I am just who I am. And so what we have to do is we have to stop trying so hard to make ourselves do something that's against our programming, and just recognize the program we have. And if it's not serving us, remove it, and then replace it with a subconscious programming that will serve us at a higher level and give us the ability to serve others at a high level. So you're all set for what you get. If you want to know what your internal thermostat is set at, what your automatic pilot, your cruise control is set at financially, relationally, or health-wise, look at the results you're getting. If you don't like that, go back and change the belief systems, the mental syntax, and your physiology, how you carry yourself, so that you can operate at a higher level and produce higher results.
Thing I want to share with you: the incredible asset of learning to show emotional intelligence. Not just to have emotional intelligence, but to demonstrate it, to actually show it. to empathize with somebody on the other end of the divide. You know, the fundamental difference between sympathy and empathy is if I am sympathetic, then I sympathize with what you're experiencing, but if I am empathetic, then I allow myself a moment to experience it as you have. And for so many of us, the world is moving so fast that we don't pause ourselves and give ourselves the opportunity to show some emotional intelligence.
So understand this, that you're going to discover like how to become the best of the best in category, the best of the best in class. Like you will be like whatever your arena is, you will set yourself so far apart from everybody else, you will have no competition. Does that sound interesting to anybody besides me? Okay, so by the way, here's what's fascinating about this whole thing. Like, is it really possible for anyone to be a superstar? I believe that barring some kind of mental impairment, that the answer is a resounding yes. Almost anyone can become a star, a superstar, or even legendary, but almost no one will. Here's what's fascinating to me. My mom taught me and my brothers when we were in elementary school how to be the best of the best in category. And here's what she said. Well, before I tell you what she said, I want to tell you about this principle. I didn't realize that that's what she had taught me until I discovered this scientific principle that's so mind-blowing. Like every time I think about it, it gives me chills. So the scientific principle is called Price's Law. Price's Law. Here's what Price's Law states. It's going to sound like word salad at first, but I'm going to do it a couple of times, so don't be nervous. But I'm about to show you, I'm about to pull back the curtain on what it takes for you to become the best of best in category. Here it is. Price's Law states that 50% of the production of any domain is produced by the square root of that domain. I know you didn't get it. I saw you not get it, so I'm going to do it again. 50% of the production of any domain is produced by the square root of that domain. And it doesn't matter if it's a garden with tomato plants, or if it's an organization with salespeople, or if it's a professional sports team with points. 50% of the production of any domain will be produced by the square root of that domain. What does that mean? Here's what it means. That means if you have 2 tomato plants, 50% of the tomatoes will be produced by two of those plants. If you have 2 salespeople, 50% of the sales will be produced by 2 salespeople. If you have 2 people on a team, 50% of the points will be produced by 2 people. I mean, if you have 4 people, I said if you have 2, I meant if you have 4. If you have 4 tomato plants, 50% will be produced by 2. If you have 4 salespeople,
I will start here by saying something that I imagine nobody else has said in the gatherings in this room here today or in the panel sessions, which is this: build a personal brand. Now notice, I didn't say anything technical. I said nothing about what school you should go to, which new certificate you should get, whether or not you should learn about technology. I said build a personal brand. And here is the reason why you want to build a personal brand. A personal brand in 2024 is arbitrage. It gets your head well above the parapet. It gets you noticed, it gets you seen, and it creates a traffic of opportunities that flows to you and not the inverse. When you have built a personal brand, your phone rings, you're not the one making phone calls. When you have built a personal brand, when you're sitting in a balance of probabilities where you either could or could not get funding, could or could not get that meeting, could or could not make an appearance at the conference, it is your personal brand that marches your name just slightly over the line. So building a personal brand then is not just about getting a number of followers on social media or being an influencer. It's about being so deeply technical in what you do that you are considered a subject matter expert in your field. And I suspect that this is a challenge for many of us. Many of us know what I like to call the virus of just enough. Just enough that you can get by. Just enough that you can appear an expert. Just enough. In today's world, the internet has made the world flat. Today, you can hire people and resources in any part of the world and connect to them with nothing more than a www address.